the parallel between the vastness of the universe and the depths of the human brain may at first glance seem like a fantastical notion that stretches the limits of our imagination. Yet recent research has revealed unexpected similarities in network motifs between the cosmic web, the filamentary structures connecting galaxies, and the labyrinthine circuits of our neurons. The complex patterns that emerge when information flows through the brain's synapses seem to echo, in some sense, the gravitational processes that dictate the distribution of stars and galaxy clusters in the universe. So what do these similarities tell us? Do the universe and our mind share the same principles of self-organization? Or are we looking merely at a coincidental visual resemblance? Moreover, should these findings be taken as a gateway to bold claims like cosmic consciousness? Or would it be wiser to remain content with the ordinary results of physics and biology? Delving deeper, is there some kind of common language between the learning and memory dynamics of the brain's networks and the evolutionary processes of galaxy clusters? Why do biological plasticity and gravitational interaction, two seemingly distinct mechanisms, reproduce the same network topologies? Let's explore the answers to these questions in depth. How do the human brain and the cosmic web show structural similarities? Research on the human brain reveals that it is organized as a highly complex neural network of roughly 86 billion neurons. Each neuron communicates with other cells via electrical and chemical signals. This dynamic interaction underpins all our mental activities. The number of connections between neurons can reach into the trillions, and these synaptic contacts govern our thoughts, emotions, memories, and learning processes. On the other hand, large-scale maps of the universe show that galaxies are not distributed randomly, but instead line up along filamentary structures known as the cosmic web. Billions of galaxies are arranged in filament-like extensions through gravitational interaction, forming nodes where these filaments intersect. Each such node represents massive accumulations of matter in the form of galaxy clusters or superclusters. These colossal filaments stretch across the vast expanse of the universe, creating an immense web. Hence, despite one system operating at the millimeter and micron scales of an organ, and the other spanning billions of light years, both appear as network-like structures, leading to striking parallels. While initially these similarities might seem merely visual, detailed statistical and structural studies indicate that both systems share certain network features. The brain's coordination via both short-range and long-range connections among neurons is surprisingly reminiscent of how galaxies cluster in nearby regions and connect to distant regions via filaments. Long-distance connections synchronize different lobes of the brain, while cosmic filaments hold galaxy clusters together. Thus, despite an unimaginable gulf of size, it is fascinating to see the reappearance of the same connectivity principles, which has ignited great curiosity in the scientific community. One main concept underlying these parallels is the idea of self-organization seen in different layers of nature. In the brain, initially formed neural circuits, guided by genetic codes, undergo changes over time through experience. Unused connections weaken, while frequently used ones strengthen. Conversely, small density fluctuations in the early universe, originating from quantum fluctuations, grew through gravity, and over time, galaxies, clusters, and superclusters took shape. In both processes, some nodes become denser and more centralized while connecting to surrounding areas. In the brain, regional neuron groups undertake specific functions. In the universe, cluster centers gather matter into their orbits. Short-range connections in the brain enable fast local interaction among nearby neurons. For example, in the visual cortex, cells close to one another work together to process detailed sensory input. Meanwhile, long axonal tracts bridging distant clusters of neurons integrate information produced in different lobes of the brain. On the cosmic scale, nearby galaxies gather into clusters and interact locally, while these clusters remain connected to distant ones by immense filaments. Thus, local structures exhibit intense interaction and efficiency. whereas the long filaments act as critical bridges linking the entire cosmic topology. In the brain, the small world principle describes how a few strategic, long-range connections integrate local clusters. The cosmic web likewise uses only a few strong channels to regulate mass flow across vast regions. A hierarchical organization also stands out in both systems. In the brain, small neuronal circuits combine to build larger functional modules, which ultimately integrate at the whole brain level. For instance, the primary visual cortex, together with neighboring neuron clusters, participates in the more comprehensive module managing visual perception, which in turn works in tandem with other cortical areas that handle conscious awareness and memory. On cosmic scales, galaxies form subgroups, which then merge into clusters, which in turn build even larger superclusters, hence a layered arrangement. A small number of extremely massive centers act as hubs, forming the backbone of the entire architecture. The resilience or robustness in both the brain and the universe reflects how flexible and fault-tolerant these networks are. In the brain, damage to a specific area can be compensated by other circuits, thanks to redundancies in the system. Through plasticity, the brain can reorganize existing connections or forge new ones. In the cosmic web, local collapses might lead galaxies to drift elsewhere or migrate to other clusters. Yet multiple connections and huge filaments prevent the entire system from failing at once. This flexibility helps both the brain and the universe remain resistant to unexpected disturbances. There is also a striking parallel in terms of density contrasts. In brain regions where neurons are exceptionally dense, the potential for intensive information processing is believed to be higher. While some layers of the cortex are packed with neurons, sparser areas serve different functional roles. In the cosmic map, galaxy clusters with extraordinarily high density lie adjacent to vast voids with almost no matter. Such contrasts help maintain the overall balance of both systems, enabling each region to specialize in distinct functions. Of course, there is a colossal difference in scale. In the brain, electrical chemical signals traverse synaptic gaps measured in microns, while cosmic filaments span millions of light years. Yet whether in neural folds or galactic filaments, the network structure stands out in full clarity, revealing itself across vastly different size domains. How can the importance of water in the brain be compared to the role of dark energy in the cosmos? When we look at the human brain, we encounter a breathtaking wholeness. Billions of neurons, the silent support of glial cells, and synaptic connections that reshape moment by moment. Through their electrochemical signals, neurons create an inner universe. Once considered merely supporting actors, glial cells have recently been recognized as crucial players that handle everything from immune responses to the release of neurotransmitters. This neuron-glia collaboration underpins the core of information transmission in the brain. Moreover, the fact that water makes up about 77% of brain tissue is no coincidence. Such a high proportion of water ensures that chemical reactions proceed smoothly and ionic balance remains stable, thereby enabling unhindered cognitive processes. In short, the brain is like a perfectly orchestrated, multi-layered symphony. Everywhere we look in the universe, we spot traces of a similar, deep harmony. The fact that galaxies dance in space while clinging to massive cosmic filaments shows that the universe too has a kind of skeletal arrangement. It's mesmerizing to consider that dark matter, carrying most of the universe's total mass in secret, shapes this grand-scale framework. Much like water fine-tunes all the brain's activities, dark energy, accelerating the expansion of the universe, acts as the backstage protagonist in the cosmic scene. Comparing numbers reveals an intriguing similarity. 77% of the brain's mass is water, while about 73% of the universe's energy density is dark energy. Although one operates at the microscopic scale and the other at incomprehensible cosmic scales, these parallels strikingly highlight the concept of a fundamental medium. In the brain, neurons communicate primarily through action potentials and neurotransmitters, taking center stage. On a cosmic scale, it is gravity that holds the spotlight. The pivotal feature of both systems is how the efficiency and integrity of their connectivity shape their overall functioning. In the brain, tightly linked cortical areas, joined by white matter tracts, integrate sensory and cognitive processes. Likewise, galaxies are bound to each other through massive filaments, facilitating the transport of matter across the cosmos. In short, the invisible roadmap that determines which neuronal circuits become active is just as crucial as dark matter's role in positioning galaxies in the universe. Adaptation is inseparable from the concept of the brain. Learning and memory arise from a flexibility known as synaptic plasticity. Connections that are used to strengthen, and those that are not weaken or even disappear, while entirely new connections can sprout. In the cosmic domain, galaxies do not remain idle. Gravitational interactions, star formation, and factors like dark energy continuously reshape their forms and positions. In the early universe, the merging of small structures into larger clusters mirrors, in a sense, the circuit pruning process in a developing brain. Just as a neuron's activity can influence the entire network, the evolution of a single galaxy can, in turn, affect its cosmic neighbours, and even the broader large-scale structure. Closer inspection of the brain reveals that the extracellular matrix also plays a key role in organisation. This matrix, which supports the chemical and electrical exchange between cells, functions like the brain's infrastructural support. On a cosmic level, dark matter serves a parallel function. That invisible scaffolding connecting galaxies helps us predict how matter moves and where galaxies will evolve. Moreover, the feeding of neurons by glial cells, repairing damaged areas and reabsorbing excess neurotransmitters, resembles how interstellar gas operates in the cosmic web. This gas is crucial for transporting matter and energy between galaxies and even directly influences new star formation. In short, whether we speak of the brain or the universe, both harbour critical supporting elements that work behind the scenes to sustain the main protagonists. Why are nodes and bridges so crucial for the functioning of both neurons and galaxies? The human brain is an incredibly complex communication puzzle formed by billions of neurons woven together. These neurons send electrical and chemical signals to one another via countless synaptic contact points. Essentially, the firing or resting state of a single neuron directly influences the activity of other neurons, and thus the entire cognitive flow. As a result, connectivity, meaning which neuron is linked to which, at what intensity, and in what rhythm, plays a central role in processes ranging from learning and memory to emotional regulation and motor skills. In the brain, real data flow takes place primarily at specialized communication bridges called synapses, where neurotransmitters are released, allowing information from one neuron to flow to neighboring cells. Certain regions act as particularly busy hubs of this flow, standing out as central nodes. These hubs aggregate local information via many neural pathways, then distribute outputs to various parts of the brain. A malfunction in these strategic centers can have a domino effect across the network, leading to large-scale functional losses. When we turn our gaze to the cosmos, we see that galaxies and galaxy clusters also operate within a very similar connection map. Galaxies, acting like neurons, cling to one another through gravitational bonds and vast cosmic filaments, taking the role of synapses. Each galaxy, together with surrounding dark matter, converges to form clusters, which are in turn linked to other distant clusters via long filamentary bridges. Just as synaptic signals guide the arrangement of information in the brain, gravity drives the distribution of matter in the universe, intertwining the behaviour of any single galaxy with the rest of the cosmic network. In both systems, long-range connections play a critical role. In the brain, neural pathways travelling from the visual cortex to the hippocampus, or the prefrontal cortex, enable large volumes of data to be processed quickly. Without these connections, different brain areas would function in isolation. On cosmic scales, the filaments that connect galaxy clusters allow matter and energy to be transferred across vast volumes of space. Consequently, a local collapse or a galaxy merger can ripple through the large-scale cosmic structure. Another layer of connectivity is the small world property. In the brain, strongly interacting local neuron groups efficiently handle certain functions, while a few but strategically important long-distance connections link these local regions to far-removed parts of the brain, resulting in an integrated cognitive process. Likewise, the universe has local galaxy clusters that gather mass tightly, but filaments connect these clusters and preserve the overall structure. A limited number of critical connections support a grand-scale arrangement that would otherwise be difficult to maintain. Notably, disruptions in these connections can undermine the overall functionality in both the brain and the universe. In the brain, a severed or misdirected synaptic link can trigger neurological or psychiatric problems, from attention deficits to memory loss. In the cosmos, any unexpected break in the cosmic web might redirect cluster mergers down unpredicted paths. However, due to the tremendous gravitational forces and dark matter framework, the universe is somewhat better equipped to localize such disruptions, preventing a full-blown collapse. Still, both systems feature natural resilience mechanisms. In the brain, if an area responsible for a critical function is damaged, alternative circuits can compensate, at least partially, thanks to neural plasticity. On a cosmic scale, the weakening of a filament or the collapse of a galaxy cluster does not destroy the entire cosmic arrangement. Alternative interaction pathways remain active, containing local turbulence. This built-in redundancy underlies both systems' ability to handle unexpected shocks. Graph theory and other mathematical tools are enlightening for analysing these connectivity patterns. By treating neurons and synapses as nodes and edges in the brain, we can pinpoint which regions play the role of hubs with dense connections. In cosmology, identifying galaxies and their gravitational links in a graph framework can reveal which clusters are central and which filaments keep the network intact. Remarkably, both extremes of scale share common features like clustering coefficient and average path length. Perhaps there is a universal logic to how nature constructs its networks. When we look at how these connection patterns evolve over time, the brain's intense early synaptic formation and subsequent pruning, removing unused links in development, is particularly noteworthy. At first, a surplus of connections is formed, but eventually unused ones are culled to make way for more efficient circuits. In the universe, matter was initially more homogeneously spread out, but gravitational collapse gradually formed the filaments and clusters we see today. The strengthening of used pathways and the weakening of unused ones might reflect the same economy and efficiency principle on both micro and macro scales. Ultimately, whether we are looking at the scale of the brain or the cosmic web, connectivity emerges as a central pillar for the system's holistic functioning. The resemblance between the brain and the universe is no mere metaphor or curiosity. It's a genuine observation fueling cross-disciplinary research in fields like neuroscience and cosmology. Admittedly, the physical laws and modes of interaction differ. Still, in both realms, the efficiency and distribution of connections proves decisive, a hint that nature might be employing common design principles across disparate scales. That's why connections stand out among the key tools for understanding both the depths of our minds and the vastness of the cosmos. What parallels exist between the brain's power spectrum and the wave properties of the cosmic microwave background? Neuroscientists investigating the human brain and cosmologists mapping the massive scale of the universe have uncovered an intriguing commonality. Both form vast networks that exhibit surprisingly similar statistical and geometric signatures. This resemblance is not merely a visual coincidence. It emerges even more clearly under detailed mathematical scrutiny. When researchers compare the positioning of neurons in the brain with that of galaxies in space, They find a host of shared features, from power law distributions to scale-invariant behaviours. Observing the same patterns in both microscopic neuronal clusters and galaxy arrangements spanning billions of light-years prompts the question: does nature employ the same rules at different scales? Firstly, if we look at node-degree distributions in the brain, how many connections each neuron has, we see a tendency to approximate a power law. Some neurons have a vast number of synapses, while the majority have far fewer. In the cosmic domain, massive galaxy clusters and superclusters create areas of very dense interaction, whereas other galaxies remain on the periphery with less interaction. Despite vastly different dynamics, synaptic plasticity in the brain versus gravitational effects in the universe, the comparable statistical outcomes suggest that the same self-organization processes might be at work in these distinct settings. Clustering properties and clumpiness also link brain and universe. On the microscopic level, neurons are not uniformly dispersed. They cluster tightly in certain regions. In the cosmic web, galaxies may appear randomly scattered at first glance, but actually organize into massive galaxy clusters, separated by vast voids. This arrangement strongly resembles the local clustering and small world dynamics observed in various complex networks. In short, local neuron groups intensively interact in the brain, just as galaxy clusters do on cosmic scales, and both are linked by a smaller number of longer-range bridges, long axons in the brain, filaments in the universe. Another shared feature becomes apparent when examining the power spectrum of density fluctuations, essentially how variations in density or activity distribute across different scales. In the brain, we can measure neural activity in both space and time to see which frequency bands dominate. In cosmology, observations of the cosmic microwave background, CMB or large galaxy catalogues, reveal stronger fluctuations at specific spatial scales. This fractal-like behaviour, a structure repeating itself across different scales, can be found in both the convoluted geometry of neuronal tissue and the branching of galaxy filaments. Scale invariance, being scale-free, is arguably the most awe-inspiring link between the brain and the cosmic web. Studying the brain across different levels, individual neurons, clusters of neurons, and finally the entire cortex, one finds that certain network features remain consistent. A similar pattern emerges when examining galaxies, superclusters, and the universe's extensive structures. The topological principles are essentially unchanged from one scale to another. Spectral and topological analyses confirm a statistical resemblance between the brain and the universe, evidence that these similarities are far more than superficial. When we randomize or use computer simulations on both brain and cosmic networks, the same essential topological parameters, small world properties, power law node degree distributions, tend to hold. Indeed, whether with neural connection maps or cosmic filaments, randomness combined with a few organizing rules yields comparable results. This similar network mechanics under different physics only deepens the notion that a universal organizational logic might span very different regimes. As measurement techniques achieve ever higher resolution, complexity in both fields increases at a similar pace. More detailed brain mapping reveals new subnetworks, while improved telescopes continuously uncover previously unnoticed galaxies and filaments. Thus, whether we scan the brain with a microscope or survey cosmic distances measured in billions of light years, the visible structure grows more intricate right alongside our ability to measure it. All these findings point to a wide-ranging array of intriguing parallels. Of course, one system operates on neurotransmitters and action potentials, while the other is driven by gravity and dark energy. Yet both exhibit similar statistical patterns in their networks. This begs the question: are there universal mathematical templates at nature's core, spanning from its smallest to largest scales? The answer may lie in the inherent nature of complexity. Whether you're exploring neural pathways or interstellar voids, nature may be using the same fundamental principles to assemble its networks. What kind of parallel exists between the flow of data in our mind and the flow of energy in the cosmos, information flow in our brains resembles a finely choreographed dance of electrical and chemical events. Neurons fire electrical impulses called action potentials along their axons, then convey these signals to neighbouring cells at synapses via neurotransmitters. This creates a constant interplay among different regions of the brain. When we consider the large-scale structure of the universe, matter and energy also flow in an equally dramatic choreography across the cosmic web. Galaxies and galaxy clusters connect via gravitationally bound cosmic highways, known as filaments, funneling matter like rivers that shape the universe's vast framework. Thus, there emerges a surprising similarity between the microscopic neural circuits of the human brain and the vast cosmic web. One transmits data via synaptic routes, while the other channels matter and energy through gravitational pathways. This parallel is more evident when you consider the efficiency and functionality of both networks. The brain's an energy-hungry organ that aims to transmit neural signals in the quickest and most economical manner possible. Frequently used synaptic connections are strengthened, unneeded ones are pruned. The universe behaves similarly. Galaxy clusters lie along the strongest gravitational pathways, such that matter accumulates and travels where the energy cost is minimal. The brain's use it or lose it philosophy is mirrored by how cosmic structures concentrate along paths where mass and energy naturally gather without waste. Within the brain, a single neuron can integrate signals from multiple sources, then pass processed information back into different neural assemblies. Across cosmic scales, galaxies can move under the influence of multiple gravitational centers, undergoing mergers or regrouping into clusters that reshape matter distribution. Just as chemical neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin, etc., modulate the speed and intensity of mental processes in the brain, dark energy regulates the rate of the universe's expansion, influencing everything at a cosmic scale. Although these motors operate under entirely different physical rules, both the brain and the cosmos rely on an overarching regulator. In both settings, the flow of data or energy is not merely linear, but unfolds through complex feedback loops. A neuron might excite its neighbours, while simultaneously modifying its own activity thresholds. On cosmic scales, galaxies attract or repel each other gravitationally, creating new collapse and merger scenarios. This non-linear interplay turns both the brain and the cosmic web into dynamic systems that are perpetually being reshaped. If this flow is disrupted at any point, both systems show clear signs of dysfunction. In the brain, severing connections between regions can compromise learning, memory, and other capabilities, though redundancies often limit the broader impact. In the cosmic network, a collapsed galaxy cluster or a disrupted filament can locally alter matter distribution, but the enormous scale of the cosmic web tends to mitigate a universal cascade effect, much like how the brain's plasticity helps it recover from localized damage. Lastly, memory is relevant in both arenas, in the brain's long-term storage and in the historical imprint of cosmic structures. The brain solidifies synaptic pathways that are frequently used, recording experiences. Galaxies similarly reflect their past interactions. Collisions, gravitational influences, and star formations shape their morphology over billions of years, leaving cosmic memories inscribed across space. Thus, both the brain and the universe are continuously transforming systems, incorporating each new piece of information or matter flow into the next phase of their evolution. What metaphorical bridges can be drawn between quantum entanglement, neural transmission, and cosmic structure? Nerve conduction in the brain is typically explained through ion channels and action potentials. However, some researchers speculate that quantum-level effects could also be at play behind these chemical electrical cycles. Particularly when it comes to consciousness and subjective experience, certain theories propose a role for quantum wave functions, superposition, or collapse. These ideas include the Penrose-Hameroff OR model, which posits quantum vibrations in neuronal microtubules, or the notion that synaptic vesicle release might hinge on quantum statistics. While not experimentally confirmed, the possibility that quantum processes might influence brain function introduces a dimension of unpredictable uncertainty to classical neuroscientific models. On the other hand, cosmological theories about the early universe point to quantum fluctuations as the seeds for density inhomogeneities. In the moments following the Big Bang, during the inflationary epoch, minute quantum fluctuations expanded to cosmic scales, eventually forming the galaxies and filaments that make up the cosmic web. In that sense, the macroscopic structure of the universe has quantum origins. This resonates with the question, could quantum events shape mental processes in the brain? Just as cosmic filaments ultimately trace back to quantum seeds, perhaps certain small-scale quantum phenomena in the brain could have far-reaching effects on neural circuits. Another aspect of quantum mechanics, entanglement, offers a metaphorical link between neuroscience and cosmology. Standard explanations attribute rapid communication in the brain to classical mechanisms of neural conduction, membrane potentials, synaptic release. Yet some researchers wonder if long-range quantum entanglement in microtubules or synapses could underlie certain aspects of brain function. Although definitive evidence is lacking, this concept stretches the boundaries of the standard neural network model. Meanwhile, in cosmology, lingering correlations in the cosmic microwave background might hint at entanglement traces from the era of cosmic inflation, guiding how matter is distributed even today. Does this deep quantum analogy indicate a genuine shared mechanism between the brain and the universe, or is it just a compelling metaphor? Many scientists argue for caution. The brain is warm, wet, and chemically complex, an environment believed to quickly destroy fragile quantum superpositions. In cosmology, it is theorized that quantum fluctuations became frozen into large-scale structure during inflation, despite the extremely high temperatures of the early universe. Both systems stem from quantum laws at the most fundamental level. But how quantum phenomena manifest macroscopically may differ markedly in the brain and the cosmos. Still, the fact that quantum fluctuations can give rise to large-scale order, filaments in the universe, and possibly neural circuits, points to a principle that might be universal. Emerging research in quantum biology shows that quantum effects are critical in processes like photosynthesis and birds' magnetic navigation. This has led to speculation that the brain, particularly in structures like microtubules, might harness quantum-scale processes for more efficient use of energy or time. On the cosmic scale, exotic concepts such as quantum pressure have been proposed to describe galaxy collapse scenarios. In that sense, both the brain and the universe might rely on quantum-based influences underlying the formation of large-scale order. Although quantum mind models remain mostly speculative within neuroscience, they do raise fundamental questions about the brain-universe parallel. If quantum mechanics lies at the root of nature, and if it once governed large-scale phenomena in the universe's early history, does the brain utilize similar network patterns? We have no definitive answer because we have not fully explained the neurophysiological origin of consciousness, nor do we completely understand quantum gravity or the early evolution of the cosmos. Nonetheless, quantum mechanics' ability to yield order from randomness may be a deep principle linking both galaxy filaments and synaptic networks in a shared underlying logic. Which commonalities link the brain's meaning-making capacity with the cosmic web's local order formation? The human brain has an extraordinary capacity for information processing. Every second, millions of sensory inputs stream in, are coded by neural networks, filtered and ultimately interpreted. In the framework of information theory, one can examine this process in terms of noise versus signal, and integration versus differentiation. Shannon's information entropy measures the uncertainty within a message. The brain works to reduce this uncertainty, extracting meaningful data, while maintaining necessary flexibility. Too much order constrains information flow. Too much chaos swallows up meaningful signals. The brain finds an optimal balance between these extremes, enabling it to adapt effectively to the environment. The cosmic web may also be interpreted through concepts like entropy and information flow. At first glance, galaxy clusters and filaments might seem randomly formed, but observations reveal that they follow an organized statistical topology rather than pure randomness. While the universe's total entropy increases over time, gravitational collapse in some regions generates local pockets of order. This situation is often described as order emerging within disorder, or local complexity within a globally increasing entropy. The dense connectivity of neural circuits in the brain follows a similar rationale. The overall system may produce noise and consume energy, yet selected regions maintain highly orderly processes. It is crucial to distinguish between physical entropy, heat, dispersion, irreversible processes, and information entropy, a measure of uncertainty, in studying both the brain and the universe. In the brain, overly synchronized activity, e.g. epileptic seizures, or extremely low entropy states like deep anesthesia, represent scenarios in which information entropy is reduced. There are fewer possible states for neural circuits to explore. Conversely, a conscious, alert brain sustains both high entropy and high integration simultaneously. On cosmic scales, extremely dense collapses, like black holes, or vast voids represent extremes in matter distribution. Meanwhile, the filamentary structures in between manage to uphold both gravitational order and thermodynamic entropy in a balanced way. Information theory also examines scale invariant patterns. In the brain, a few hub neurons have enormous connectivity, while the majority have fewer links. In the cosmic web, we see a small number of superclusters alongside countless smaller galaxy groups. This distribution can be described as a tiny subset with high connectivity and a large set with lower connectivity. Such an arrangement enables a network to be both efficient and robust. Hubs integrate the system, while peripheral nodes encourage local diversity. Entropy analysis is also used to evaluate different states of the brain, from wakefulness to sleep and anesthesia or epileptic episodes. Under deep anesthesia, the variety, entropy, of brainwaves decreases, settling into a narrower range of rhythms. Though the universe does not have conscious states, the interactions among galaxy clusters, dark matter, and cosmic expansion define how cosmic information evolves. Filamentary gas flows yield new stars, producing radiation and heat that export entropy to the rest of the universe. Meanwhile, memory formation or learning in the brain increases local order but also generates external entropy, heat, metabolic byproducts. Hence the question, which is more complex, the brain or the universe, cannot be answered by scale or mass alone. The brain's information transfer occurs at millisecond intervals through trillions of synapses, whereas the interactions among galaxy clusters take place at or below the speed of light and gravitational waves, over millions or billions of years. Despite this discrepancy in timescale, both systems appear to strive for optimal complexity. Dark matter, dark energy, stars and galaxy clusters set the information budget of the cosmos, just as neurons, glia, synaptic plasticity, and neurotransmitters set the brain's meaning-making capacity. Viewed through the lens of information theory, both the brain and the cosmos appear engaged in a dance between order and chaos. The brain extracts meaning from sensory data, reducing entropy. The universe, even amid an overall increase in entropy, exhibits local pockets of order, clusters, filaments, that facilitate higher complexity. The crux here is determining whether rising complexity is a universal trend or simply a local phenomenon at certain scales. In the brain, complexity evolves continually through plasticity and learning. The universe, though on vastly longer timescales, still yields new local orders via star formation. Which scientific methods are used to compare the brain and the cosmic web? When people talk about the similarities between the human brain's neural network and the vast cosmic web of the universe, it might initially sound inspiring yet highly abstract. How can one even mention microscopic nerve cells and billion light-year filaments in the same breath? In fact, those who discovered the parallels were not just neuroscientists or cosmologists, but also those who followed the data across disciplines. Below are some principal methods uniting these two seemingly unrelated worlds, revealing how scientists image, model, and statistically analyze the brain's intricate landscape and the universe's grand tapestry. First and foremost, high-resolution imaging techniques serve as the gateway for exploring both systems. For the brain, MRI, electron microscopy, and diffusion-weighted scans display the structure of neurons, axons, and synapses in fine detail, mapping out which regions have dense or sparse connections. Turning our gaze skyward, telescopes spanning the electromagnetic spectrum, from X-ray to radio, track the positions of galaxies and the intricate makeup of galaxy clusters, illuminating the cosmic web. So whether we are looking at tiny brain circuits or enormous galaxy clusters, the approach begins with imaging and mapping. Next come cosmological simulations and brain network simulations. Cosmologists include dark matter and dark energy in large-scale computational models to reconstruct how the universe formed. They start with small density fluctuations and simulate how these evolve into filaments, voids, and clusters over billions of years. Similarly, neuroscientists build models of neurons, synapses, and plasticity rules to see how simple signals can spontaneously create a complex neural network. In both fields, these simulations shed light on the self-organization processes behind intricate structures. Then we employ spectral analysis for both the brain and the cosmic web. We can take a small slice of brain tissue, measure neuron activity or density, and break it down into frequency components to see where certain scales dominate. On cosmic scales, examining galaxy distributions or the cosmic microwave background reveals certain wavelength bands with stronger fluctuations. Such insights point to fractal-like or scale-invariant patterns in both neural tissue and galactic filaments. A major step in identifying commonalities is network analysis. Viewing the brain as a network of neurons, nodes, connected by synapses, edges, we can measure how many connections each neuron has and how far they extend. For the cosmic web, galaxies serve as nodes, while gravitational or spatial bonds act as edges. This allows researchers to compare the node degree distributions, clustering coefficients, and average path lengths in both systems. Fractal analysis then examines any self-similar, repeating patterns. The folds of the cortex or the distribution of grey and white matter in the brain might show the same geometry at different magnifications. Galaxy clusters and filaments too may reveal self-similar branching structures at various scales. If an object maintains the same pattern when scaled up or down, that is a sign of fractal organization. At the core of these methods lies graph theory. By representing both the brain and the cosmic web as nodes and edges, we can systematically evaluate metrics such as degree distribution, hub formation, clustering coefficients, and average path length. Strikingly, at the extremes of scale, microscopic brain tissue versus an immense cosmic map, both exhibit surprising similarities in these basic network parameters. Often, we see power law or scale-free distributions, a small subset of highly connected nodes contrasted with a majority of less connected nodes. Only after building or analysing such models do we move to statistical validation. Here, scientists use parametric or non-parametric tests, permutation tests, bootstrap analyses, etc., to confirm that the observed similarities are not random artifacts or measurement errors. Independent replication, seeing whether different teams using different datasets and methods yield similar results. is another key step in verifying real commonalities. In recent years, machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithms have become indispensable in handling colossal datasets, sometimes revealing hidden parallels. Deep learning can analyze brain scan data to detect neuronal connectivity patterns, while similarly scanning massive galaxy catalogues to identify correlations in cosmic structures. As the volume of data grows in both domains, automated analysis tools become ever more critical. Thus, the revelation that two extremes, our brain's microscopic circuits and the universe's macro-scale cosmic web, share parallel traits continues to come into sharper focus. How does complexity science shed light on the similarities between the brain and the universe? The structural, functional, and statistical parallels discovered between the human brain and the large-scale cosmic web are far more than just a "wow, neurons look like galaxies" kind of reaction. Instead, these findings highlight some fundamental, universal principles at the heart of complexity science, which examines how intricate systems, from the micro to the macro, self-organize and sustain coherent behavior. One system is a microscopic universe of billions of synapses. The other is an immense cosmic web with trillions of galaxies. How can these two fundamentally different entities display such similar network patterns and organizational principles? This is precisely the question at which complexity science excels. Firstly, these parallels suggest the existence of universal principles in network formation. Despite being driven by entirely different forces, neurotransmitters and action potentials in the brain, gravity and dark matter in the universe, both systems converge on analogous network topologies, like small world structures or scale-free node-degree distributions. Secondly, they spotlight self-organization as a common thread running through both living and non-living matter. Whether it's neural plasticity or gravitational collapse, simple local interactions can yield large-scale order. Both the brain and galaxies appear to respond in a similar way to the question, how does order emerge from chaos? Thirdly, these examples support the notion that the type of interaction matters less than the structure of the network when it comes to complexity. Even with highly distinct interaction mechanisms, the end product, power law or hub-and-spoke topologies, can be very similar. This underscores that complexity in nature is more tied to the architecture of connections rather than the specific physics involved. Fourthly, this research offers exciting cross-disciplinary exchanges. Models of synaptic plasticity might pose new questions about cosmic matter flow, and methods developed by astrophysicists to handle massive data might inform how neuroscientists analyze large-scale brain connectivity maps. Complexity science thrives on bringing seemingly unrelated disciplines together to form new theories. Fifthly, there appears to be a shared pattern of optimization over time in both networks. The brain seeks maximum cognitive performance with minimal energy consumption, while the cosmic web tends to allocate mass in a way that lowers gravitational potential. Both systems seem to optimize for efficient usage of resources, hinting that nature might apply similar cost-benefit principles across different scales. Sixthly, scale invariance and fractal-like architectures, cornerstones of complexity science, emerge as universal tools. Both the cosmic web and neural folds show repeating or self-similar patterns at different magnifications, as if nature were using the same blueprint at various levels. Seventhly, these parallels question whether biological complexity is truly unique, or if nature crafts equally intricate networks outside life forms. While the brain is special in its capacity for consciousness, seeing a similar network form in cosmic structures suggests that forging complexity may not be exclusive to biological systems. That doesn't mean the universe is conscious, of course, but it does support a broader principle of complexity formation at multiple scales. Eighthly, multidisciplinary collaboration is pivotal in revealing these insights more fully. When astrophysicists, neuroscientists, mathematicians, computer scientists, and philosophers converge, they can ask new kinds of questions. Why are these networks so similar? Or, does scale-free organization offer evolutionary advantages in both systems? The synergy of many fields drives complexity science forward. Ninthly, with a better grip on these parallels, researchers can devise more accurate predictive models. Could cosmic modelling inform predictions about brain aging? Or might brain plasticity models help us understand how galaxy clusters evolve over time? Such cross-pollination could lead to fresh, unexpected breakthroughs. Lastly, studying complexity across brain and cosmos is not just about satisfying curiosity. It also has practical implications for everything from AI to astrophysics. For example, cosmic web simulations might inspire new architectures for artificial neural networks. Similarly, understanding neural self-organization might offer clues for simulating large-scale cosmic phenomena. In this sense, linking the smallest scale of the mind with the largest scale of the universe doesn't merely deepen our understanding of nature, it also lays the foundation for future scientific and technological advances. What challenges arise when comparing the brain and the cosmic web? Putting the neural networks of the human brain and the awe-inspiring cosmic web of galaxies into a single conversation is an ambitious endeavour. While both display network-like structures, analysing them scientifically side by side requires bridging different disciplines and grappling with datasets at opposite ends of the scale spectrum. This visionary task, though exciting, also poses a variety of challenges: technical, methodological, and theoretical. One major issue is that we do not yet have a complete connectivity map, connectome, of the brain. Current neuroimaging technologies can capture high-resolution snapshots of individual neurons or small regions, but cannot simultaneously record all the billions of cells and trillions of synapses in an entire brain. Thus, we rely on partial or regional data to infer general patterns, making it difficult to confidently apply such patterns to the whole brain. A parallel difficulty is that we cannot create a fully detailed map of cosmic structures either. Wide-field surveys using telescopes and space observatories give us deep insights into galaxy clusters and filaments, but do not capture all of the universe's intricacies at once. The sheer distances involved, the speed of light limit, and cosmic timescales make it nearly impossible to observe every corner of the cosmos in high resolution simultaneously. Thirdly, there is the challenge of comparing entirely different physical interactions. The brain is governed by electrochemical and biological rules, whereas gravity, dark matter, and dark energy control the large-scale universe. Fitting both systems under a unified network theory approach is exciting, but requires expertise in physics, astrophysics, neuroscience, biology, and computer science all at once, a monumental coordination and translation of specialist languages. A fourth hurdle is distinguishing true similarity from statistical coincidence. Power law distributions and fractal structures appear in many natural systems, from ant colonies to river networks and even social media. It's not easy to tell whether the brain-universe parallel arises from shared underlying mechanisms or from universal network laws that pop up across diverse settings. Potential measurement biases, modelling assumptions, and large datasets all complicate the picture. Fifthly, limitations of computational simulations must be considered. Whether we're modelling artificial neural networks to mimic brain development or simulating galaxy formation over billions of years, we rely on sets of assumptions and finite processing power. Small tweaks in parameters can yield substantially different outcomes. Thoroughly testing brain-cosmic analogies within these constraints is a delicate balancing act. Sixth, the immense disparity in scales introduces further challenges. The brain's processes occur at the micron to millimeter range, while cosmic filaments span millions of light years. While it is feasible to apply certain mathematical tools to both domains, the concepts of time, energy, and density play drastically different roles. Therefore, specialized rescaling and modeling techniques are needed. Seventh, measurement biases and error margins can undermine the reliability of findings in both neuroscience and cosmology. In the brain, individual variability, resolution limits, and potential artifacts in imaging methods can complicate data interpretation. In the universe, telescope sensitivity, redshift uncertainties, dust and cosmic distance measurements can skew or limit cosmic data. No matter how advanced our tools become, these issues cannot be eliminated completely. Eighth, it is nearly impossible to directly observe each system's full evolutionary process. The human brain develops and changes over mere decades, whereas the universe evolves over billions of years. No single researcher can witness one system's entire developmental arc, let alone both. Hence, astronomers and neuroscientists both rely heavily on simulations, reconstructions, and indirect measurements to infer histories. Finally, a ninth and arguably the most human challenge is coordinating interdisciplinary collaboration. It takes substantial effort for researchers from astrophysics, neuroscience, mathematics, and data science to work in sync. Clashes in terminology, methodology, or specialty can disrupt or slow progress. On a positive note, improving technologies, telescope arrays, brain imaging, AI, and big data analytics offer hope that many of these hurdles can be surmounted. However, patience, teamwork, and boundless curiosity remain essential ingredients. Do the brain-universe similarities imply there is such a thing as cosmic consciousness? Noticing the remarkable parallels between the complex neural network in the human brain and the filamentary web of galaxies in the cosmos has led many to ask whether there might be a mysterious link between the two. Neurons and galaxies apparently share comparable mathematical patterns and hub nodes. Both feature power law distributions and small world properties. This in turn inspires some thinkers to posit a deep connection, perhaps even a cosmic consciousness. However, our current data do not go so far as to equate these two systems functionally. Indeed, there are major differences in their operative principles. In the brain, biology and electrochemical signals dominate, whereas the universe is governed by gravity, dark matter, and dark energy. Thus, merely observing statistical or visual similarities does not suffice to conclude that the universe thinks like a brain. While the brain processes information through electrochemical signaling and synaptic plasticity, cosmic structures emerge from gravitational interaction on a vast scale. Both display emergent complexity, but that does not equate to functional equivalence. Some cosmic consciousness scenarios propose that matter distribution in the universe forms a grand intelligence or data network. From a scientific standpoint, these are philosophical ideas that are difficult to test. Most remain speculative, since we do not have a method to measure consciousness on cosmic scales. At the same time, the fact that similar network characteristics appear throughout nature might be a testament to self-organizing laws, rather than evidence of a universal mind. Power law distributions and scale invariant networks are found in countless other systems, from insect colonies to social media interaction graphs. Hence, a more grounded explanation might be that nature regularly employs similar building blocks to create complex systems. Any attempt to link consciousness and the universe thus typically falls within philosophical discourse. We do not yet fully grasp what consciousness is, so relating it to cosmic scale phenomena remains speculative. Still, the cross-disciplinary study of similarities in brain-cosmic network organization can be extremely valuable for scientific progress. For instance, advanced data analysis techniques developed in cosmology might enhance our ability to interpret large-scale brain imaging data and vice versa. Future technologies, both telescopes probing the cosmos and more sophisticated neuroimaging, may reveal whether these similarities run deeper than we suspect. For now, however, these structural parallels cannot alone validate any form of cosmic consciousness. In conclusion, seeing recurring complexity motifs across different scales might reflect a universal, natural engineering, rather than pointing to a shared consciousness. Whether this indicates some ancient, conscious link, or simply a recurring pattern in how nature builds networks, is an ongoing source of scientific inquiry and philosophical musing.